It was another busy day here at Occupy LA. This is day 7 and you're watching Inside Out News.
I guess they were wrong. When they thought this movement just died. Because we're just growing. And growing. And to prove that, we got two brothers who have been in this struggle for a very long time. We must learn from our elders and remember this struggle is not a sprint, but a marathon.
This morning, protesters with the ICUJP gathered a few blocks from City Hall to protest the wars that the United States is involved in the Middle East. They stood in the middle of an intersection just a few blocks away. The police department confronted the protesters, asked them to move off of the middle of the street as they were blocking traffic. The protesters refused. They stood and remained there singing songs. And as a result of the protesters' refusal to leave, the police department arrested them. They arrested 15 of the protesters that were there. According to the organizers here at Occupy LA, none of the protesters from the encampment were part of the arrests. The occupiers here got a special treat today. Cornel West and Tavis Smiley came by the encampment to visit the protesters. They promised to come back later in the day. They showed up around 5:30 p.m. with a CNN van. They stood in front of the protesters and did a live report with CNN. After that, they walked over to the steps of City Hall where the protesters were waiting there for them. There was somewhere from 300 to 500 protesters here listening to Cornel West and Tavis Smiley. Let's go to a few highlights from Tavis Smiley and Cornel West's speech today.
I believe as a member of the media on public television, especially on public television and public radio, it is my mission, it's my mandate, it's my calling, my vocation, my purpose to try to get Americans who don't get this to re-examine the assumptions they hold. My job is to try to help them to expand their inventory of ideas. My job on public TV and public radio is to try to get them to look at this country and the crisis of this country through a different prism.
I'm telling you, there's such a sweet spirit here in Los Angeles because you have consecrated this space by bearing witness to justice. That's what you've done. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. We want to be very clear. When we talk about corporate greed, we say that in the name of our love for poor people, our love for working people, our love for all of those who are catching hell. Don't let anybody say this movement is about hating people. We hate injustice and we love people, especially those who are catching hell. Oh yeah, we're concerned about the corporate greed and the corporate media complex. With the weapons of mass distraction to try to cultivate addiction and self-medication and narcissism so we're not concerned about public interest and common good. So when we talk about corporate greed, we don't have the demands like we got 1 or 2 demands with all of the creative voices here. We got a cacophony of voices. Oh yeah! We like a Duke Ellington orchestra. Where everybody got all the different voices, and Duke is not conducting, he just got one voice among others, but he's on the piano doing his thing. That's democracy in action at the symbolic point. This is democracy in action on the ground.
Yesterday, President Obama talked about the protests on Wall Street and across the country. He said, obviously, I've heard of it. I've seen it on television. I think it expresses the frustrations of the American people feel that we had the biggest financial crisis since the Great Depression, and yet you're still seeing some of the same folks who acted irresponsibly, trying to fight efforts to crack down on abusive practices that got us in this problem in the first place. So yes, I think the people are frustrated, and the protesters are giving voice to a more broad-based frustration about how our financial system works. Now, keep in mind, I have said before, and I will continue to repeat, we have to have a strong, effective financial sector in order for us to grow. As Amy Goodman said this morning on Democracy Now!, Obama said he understands the protesters' frustrations, but ultimately he supports the financial sector. I walked around the encampment today and asked some of the protesters what they thought about what the president said and if they had a response or a message for the president. Here's what some of them had to say.
Well, that doesn't surprise me. I mean, to quote Immoral Technique at Occupy Wall Street, he called Obama a corporate lawyer, which, you know, that definitely stings to the heart of the issues that we're having here, that the government that's in place is supporting the financial systems that are already in place, the corporations that already have the power. So that's pretty much why we're here, is we're here to say that, yeah, we know that you're going to support them, and we know that this is what you want because you've been in power and everything is still the same. So that's exactly why we're here, is we're trying to make our own statement and say, no, we're not going to let that happen, and we're not going to let you protect these institutions that have already been, you know, oppressing all the people.
I think it's only natural for Obama to believe in the financial system because that's what backs him. That's what, I mean, the people he put in his cabinet are the same people from Goldman Sachs, the revolving door of people from Wall Street that Bush had in his cabinet. So really he made the choice to perpetuate the same economic crisis, and of course he's going to identify with their philosophy because he doesn't have anyone in his cabinet that is in our position, is from the 99%, is from, you know, a position of economic deprivation.
Yeah, and I would just say that we're pretty much letting him know that the system's broke. So as a chief executive officer of this country, it's his job to try to figure out how to fix it. And a big part of that is going to be him really looking into his heart and deciding what policies benefit the majority of the people in this country instead of the top 1%.
Well, if he claims to continue to believe in the financial sector of this country, we beg to differ, and we'd like to prove that in a peaceful manner here at Occupy LA, as well as 99%. We're an offshoot of Occupy Wall Street, and we're trying to take the message that the 99% can overcome the 1% that runs this country financially, and to bring back and hand over to the people their government.
Well, I don't think he truly understands how desperate Americans are. I don't think that the politicians in America are in touch with the reality on the suffering that's happening here in America. We want more. We want more from our government. We want government that's not corrupt. We want government that's not controlled by the big money. We want money. We want government that's responsive to the people.
We were hoping to cover the Answer LA rally at the Westwood Federal Building today, but with the surprise visit of Tavis, Smiley, and Cornel West, we felt it was best to remain at the encampment and to hear what they had to say to the occupiers at City Hall. Tomorrow, there will be a music festival here at Occupy LA. The festival begins at 12 p.m. and Tom Morello of Rage Against the Machine will be here at 4 p.m. to address the protesters and hopefully to share some of his music with them. We will be here tomorrow to cover the festival and hopefully to get an interview with Tom Morello. This ends our broadcast for tonight. Thank you for watching. My name is Margot Paez and you are watching Inside Out News. I will see you tomorrow. Goodbye.